And you had talked about environmental factors that would create an addiction problem that wouldn't necessarily be in the genes, but just my being around someone or people who use.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you hear all the time about NAAA talks about people, places, and things as being sort of fundamental triggers for use. Certainly availability, so being in an environment where drugs are prevalent. One of the things I think that we could certainly think about or speculate about with Philip Seymour Hoffman, and it's kind of unique to heroin use, is the fact that heroin use becomes associated with a number of environmental cues, people, places, and things. And as a result of that, those triggers can actually create a physiological change that actually produces a withdrawal experience even in the absence of use. So it's very possible that even after, years, having been exposed to drug cues may in fact have created a sensation of withdrawal, even nowhere near as intense as withdrawal from the drug itself, but enough to make the person feel kind of edgy and motivated to get the drug to. And that's actually one of the reasons why people do frequently relapse to heroin use, is because 6 months, a year, 2 years down the line, they come in contact with a heroin cue and they experience this post-acute withdrawal, and they know the heroin will make it go away. So.
Could be just seeing a syringe in the right setting, or walking down on a street corner that resembles where you used to purchase the drug. Anything like those environmental cues can trigger. And essentially what they do is they trigger a compensatory response that your body thinks it's now going to be exposed to the drug. So it's preparing for the drug, and by doing that it's trying to maintain homeostasis. And so in preparing for that increase of the drug, it's changing the systems in reverse and causing that negative state. And then so you just see the syringe, you see that street corner, you feel awful, and you know how to get rid of feeling awful.
So they're the demons.
Right.
It really is.
Yeah.
That's why she was talking. Liz was talking about the people, places, things. Those cues, we learn them, and they're triggers for that preparation for the drug taking, which then leads us to go experience withdrawal without the drug.
Well, and I think one of the issues here is that it is a compensatory response. So the natural endorphins shut down in preparation for the introduction of these external endorphins. Someone like Philip Seymour Hoffman, who hasn't been using at a high level for a long time, may in fact have attempted to use at a level that he had previously. And that actually is the reason why a number of heroin addicted patients will in fact overdose, is because they start to use, after a period of absence, they start to use at a level that they had used previously, but the body isn't prepared to handle that dose. And if he had been snorting and then transitioned to injecting, more of the drug gets into the bloodstream and to the brain, and so it's going to have a much more dramatic effect, both in terms of the high, but also in terms of the physiological effects on the respiratory system. And it could very easily have been just the nature of the fact that he hadn't used for a long time, and his body wasn't prepared to handle the amount of the drug that he injected.
So has there been a survey of sorts that, you go around to heroin addicts or post-heroin addicts and you say, so how does your body feel now? Versus how it felt before you started using?
Well, we know that the physical symptoms of withdrawal disappear within 7 to 10 days. So it's not like in most cases it's an extended, drawn-out period. Now, again, methadone and buprenorphine actually have generally longer periods of withdrawal, but they're much milder, so you don't notice them as much. And so physically, you're over it in about 7 to 10 days. Now, the brain, and it's the neurotransmitters, the chemicals, the metabolic function may take a lot longer. So, and then something I just wanted to back up with a little bit in terms of the exposure and where you're taking the drug, these cues that prepare the drug, if you're in a location and you've taken it fairly consistently in a location and then you take the same dose in a new location that you've taken, you don't have those cues preparing your body for the homeostasis. And so again, you get this much bigger effect of the drug because your body's not prepared for that same dose. So those are other ways that overdoses frequently occur. You get used to using it one place, it prepares you for using it, and when you take it elsewhere again,
it's like the drug itself becomes a person.
Well, I often think of drug addiction in general as like a romance. That this is a lover, best friend, confidant, the person, the thing that comforts you. And when you're asking someone to give that up, you're asking them to give up something that is so fundamentally important to them. They actually have to grieve it, that there's this sort of grieving process that goes on as they kind of, make the decision to give up drug use. And part of the problem is that drug use is immediately reinforcing. So either by alleviating withdrawal or by producing a high, the person gets that immediate positive experience. Recovery isn't. Recovery, the positive effects tend to be delayed. So someone who makes the decision to stop using drugs has to kind of weather a really almost unpleasant experience during early recovery in order to get to the place where they start to experience the natural reinforcement of being sober, like getting a job, repairing relationships, physical health coming back. All of that stuff takes time. And so in many ways, the way in which we look at the contingencies that sort of affect drug use versus affect recovery, they tend to favor continued drug use in that case. Because, hey, I know I'm going to feel good. I know I can, avoid thinking about responsibilities. I don't have to worry about anything if I'm using my drugs. But I have to deal with all of that stuff and recognize that I've given up a lot of my life if I stop.
We have so much more to cover, and we've covered so much about heroin, and I appreciate you all talking to us, and we'll be right back.